What was the price of sin given to Adam? Who wanted to be like God because of the fruit of the tree of knowledge? That is, Adam had to live as the master of his life by the sweat of his brow. It is the harsh reality that mankind is not free from this situation, which was resulted from the sin. Because of this sin, everyone on earth can eat only through painful toil, pouring his own blood, sweat and tears. Man will return to dust as the price of sin. Adam, who was driven out of Eden, began to live his life that never lived before. It would have been so hard for Adam, who used to live in Eden, where everything was given free and fully protected by God. Here, let's think about one thing. Do you remember Moses? He also once lived in the lap of luxury, in the royal family of Egypt. Then his life turned upside down. He had to flee from Egypt after murdering Egyptians with anger. Then he ended up living as a shepherd in Midian, the wilderness. For 40 years, he lived a lowly life. There is one thing we should remember here. God did not grant us life so we can succeed with our own abilities and efforts. That is not his intended purpose for our life. Then what? He wanted Adam to learn how difficult it would be to live his life with own ability outside of Eden. Do you think God would have been proud of Adam if he proved himself to be so successful without God? The parable of the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15 disproves this. In the parable, the younger son demanded for his share of estate, set off with all he had for a distant country, and there he squandered his wealth in wild living. Then he set out and went back to his father. But the father accepted his son. But let's take it from another perspective. If the prodigal son set out with father's wealth and became very richer than his father, then he asked his father to live with him in his beautiful house. Would it be the better picture? Why do you think his father showed him so much compassion and welcomed him home with great joy even he wasted everything? Because he learned that he couldn't live his life well with his own ability. He learned that he can truly live the life with his father. The focus of this story is not just about the son, who lived a decadent life managed to reconcile with his father. The key lesson of this parable is that a man cannot live apart from God. Why did God give us the law? Paul says, Romans chapter 7 says that the law simply shows us how sinful we are, not to declare ourselves perfectly righteous. However, teachers of the law and Pharisees at that time thought that they obeyed every law. Here, the law and grace are separated. God drove Adam out of Eden, so he realizes that it is difficult to live on earth on his own. Humans who have become accustomed to live on earth rely on the law of causality. We think it fair to get what we earn. So naturally we praise people who have succeeded with their own strengths, abilities and efforts. But that's not the purpose of God. If that's true, in Exodus God could have made the people of Israel so prosper that they could have conquered the people of Egypt and eventually ruled over Egypt. Then the people of God would have responded, God helped us win. Egyptians couldn't beat us, but God took the people of Israel out of Egypt. God did not let them fight the Egyptians to win. However, God watched over his people who are slaved all day. And God heard the cry of his people, who were exhausted from the slavery he called Moses. What does it mean? God's people cannot live by the principle of Egypt. In other words, God's people are not the people who are submitting themselves to the demands of the master of this world. The purpose of the life of the people of God is not that they sweat to conquer the Egypt. Furthermore, it is not so much that they take over the whole world and show the world how powerful they are. But today there are so many people around the world who think of this as a faith. So many people misunderstand that it is God's blessing to occupy and rule the world. God is not telling us to live our life by this way. God gave us the earth to remember the life of Eden and return to the life of Eden. So what did God do for his people who were slaves to Egypt? God drew them into the wilderness, because there is nothing to do in the wilderness. They worked very hard every day in Egypt. There was nothing but working from morning to evening, and at night they were satisfied with what they have earned. It was the life of Egypt. But God brought them out into the wilderness. What is in the wilderness? There was only dust, sand, and wind. God took his people into the place where there is nothing. What did God for his people there? God fed them, clothed them, and protected them from enemies. In other words, God has transformed his people into the life where they cannot live without his provision and his protection. This is the life of those whose returning to Eden and the life of the wilderness that every Christians experience.